Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flying Officer Katie Hawkins. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please be seated if able. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private William Blake. William Blake was born in about 1892 in Surrey, England, the son of Phoebe and John Blake. Little is known about Blake's childhood. He came to Australia at the age of 18, probably with his brother John. The brothers both settled in Western Australia, where William worked as a farmer in Dunbyung, a small wheatbelt town southeast of Perth. William Blake enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 28th of August 1916. After initial training in early November, he embarked from Fremantle, arriving in England in mid-January 1917. More training followed before he proceeded to France in May, joining the 43rd Battalion on the 20th of June. He arrived just after the battalion had experienced its first significant action of the war. 19 powerful mines exploded under the German trenches along the White Sheet Machine Ridge before the Australians made a successful attack south of the Messines village in Belgium. Around a month later, at the end of July, Blake was wounded in action, receiving a gunshot wound to the eyes on the 31st of July. He was evacuated to France for treatment and spent time recovering before returning to duty in early September. Less than a month after returning to duty, Blake's battalion took part in the Battle of Broad Cinder, part of the Ypres offensive. The battle was a large bite and hold operation. The attacking troops' advance would be preceded by a massive artillery bombardment. Then a creeping barrage would lead them to their objectives and protect them as they consolidated their positions. The attack began before dawn on the 4th of October 1917. The Australian troops involved were shelled heavily on their start line, and 1/7 of them became casualties before the attack began. When it did, the attacking troops were confronted by a line of troops advancing towards them. The Germans had chosen the same morning to launch an attack of their own. The Australians forged on through the German assault waves and gained all of their objectives along the ridge. But the battle was not without cost. German pillboxes were difficult to subdue, and the Australian division suffered 6,500 casualties. Blake was again wounded in action, receiving a gunshot wound to his abdomen and one penetrating his head. He was taken to a casualty clearing station, but his wounds proved mortal, and he died 3 days later, on the 7th of October 1917. He was 25 years old. His remains were buried in Lissenhoek Military Cemetery in Belgium. His name is listed on the honour roll to my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William Blake, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. And at the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director and staff, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.